Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are all grateful for your service to our nation, and we look forward with anticipation to the future and how we can be supportive. I'm grateful that you hosted this important hearing on sanctions tools. I had the privilege of visiting South Korea and China this August after voting for the Korean Interdiction and Modernization Sanctions Act. And I am pleased that the administration has begun implementing secondary sanctions on banks and companies that are facilitating trade with North Korea. And I look forward to finding ways to address North Korea's sanctions evasions practices in 2018. Mr. Zarate, do you believe that the Trump administration's initial secondary sanctions here that we talked about in 2017 have been useful in altering China's financial calculus? And then, looking on, what is it that you're looking for in 2018 from the administration?
Congresswoman, I think the mere threat of secondary sanctions is effective in terms of sensitizing the Chinese to the risks of continuing to do business with North Korea the way they have been. And I think the sense of urgency and the sort of Damocles of the secondary sanctions has been very effective, actually, in changing the landscape. You've seen UN Security Council resolutions that have been tougher. You've seen better compliance from the Chinese, not perfect by any stretch, especially in terms of the mineral and coal trade. You've seen greater interdictions. We've seen 2 recently from the South Koreans in terms of maritime concerns. And so I would say that the mere threat of secondary sanctions conditions the marketplace, and especially for those, for example, Chinese banks that want to operate in the United States. The legitimate actors realize they have to comply with U.S. laws and international norms. The more we can sensitize the environment, the better off we are. And the use of things like Section 311, as was used against Dandong Bank, becomes very important to signal to the market where are the risks and what should you stay away from.
I was in Dandong when that sanction came down and watching the trade back and forth, and I think it has been effective. Mr. Maltz, I appreciate your willingness to speak out on the Obama administration's obstruction of justice regarding Project Cassandra. The U.S. has a clear national security obligation to respond to Hezbollah's criminal and terrorist activities. To what extent can the Trump administration reverse the damage of the last 8 years and issue indictments against Hezbollah agents?
Again, going back to the fundamental point I've been saying all morning is information sharing at 100%, break down the damn walls between the terror and the crime investigators, okay, provide the financial experts what they need and the resources. And to answer the other question about IT, we are in the dark ages and we need to upgrade those systems of collaboration and information sharing. But the thing is that we have to remember that prosecutions pursuant to the rule of law are powerful. And if you look back over time, there weren't that many. As soon as you raise the name Hezbollah, it's a terrorist group. Well, no, they're international criminals. They're transnational criminals that are trying to destroy our country.
That's right.
So you must pull together your experts in every area. It's not one thing. And that's where we have to really change our culture and thought process. And folks in this room can help do that.
Well, and I hope that the U.S. agencies have learned some lessons, like Homeland Security and DOJ.
No, they have not learned because
and I question that. You know, Project Cassandra is a perfect example of those walls being built up between, and they have not moved forward.
Like I've said over and over again, and think about this, put your taxpayer hat on. When we did that action, we actually identified hundreds of used car businesses in America sending cars to West Africa. We only included 30 in the 311 action and the civil complaint because of limited sharing, okay? So that's unacceptable. And when is somebody going to be held accountable for that?
Thank you. In my limited time, Mr. Zarate, do you believe that the 2017 UN sanctions will effectively cut into North Korea's profits from forced labor outside its borders?
I think so, and it was long overdue to cut off that source of funding. I think we have to put more diplomatic pressure on those countries that continue to host the guest workers because money continues to flow back. That's a source of revenue. And Congresswoman, to your point about criminality, in the context of North Korea, they give us a gift. This is a criminal mafia state that engages in smuggling, money laundering, human rights abuses, sanctions evasion, abuse of the financial system. So this is the prime target to use the kinds of financial measures and tools that we've talked about and that work so well against Iran.
Thank you. My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Brad Schneider of Illinois.